Hello everyone, this is Ashley. Today we're going to be looking at the alignments for the August 22nd full moon in Aquarius. And then we're going to look at just a spread of cards that I did just before starting the video here that will provide some additional guidance on top of the full moon videos that I've already posted for each of the zodiac signs. Couple of notes. So if you don't know astrology, or you don't have an interest in astrology, I'm going to kind of go through the themes of what this full moon will bring up. So I guess I should have said that differently. If you don't know astrology and you are interested, stick around. We'll go through the themes that are coming up. I'll break it down and what it means for the collective. If you are not interested in this part of the reading and you want to just skip ahead to the card reading, I will include a timestamp down below. Now I am going to kind of try to get through this fairly quickly because I have two girls at home with me today, and I'm hoping they give me enough time to get through this video before they interrupt, so we'll see how that goes. So to get started, the full moon in Aquarius is taking place on August 22nd, 2021 at 7:01 a.m. Chicago time, so Central Time. So you would need to adjust that based on your location in the world. So for the US, this is taking place this Sunday, and I am recording this on the 19th. So in the chart, we have the Sun at 29 degrees 37 minutes of Leo, and then we have the Moon at 29 degrees 37 minutes of Aquarius. And if you have not noticed or you haven't been paying attention, this is actually our second full moon in Aquarius. We had a full moon in Aquarius at the earlier degree points on July 23rd. This is our second full moon in Aquarius, and it's sitting at the later or anaretic degree of Aquarius, so it's the last few minutes of this zodiac sign. And that can be, it's like as we move through a sign, we are evolving in that sign's particular like elements. So for Aquarius, this would be individuality amongst, a collective. So like Aquarian type of vibes are like sort of like the black sheep. It can be a bit eccentric. It can also be very mentally focused. It is an air sign. It is also like the collective itself, so larger groups of people. And so someone with strong Aquarian in their natal chart will likely display, more individualized, eccentric type of behavior, but in some way they are bringing that particular characteristic to a larger group. And so we'll see a lot of that coming through at this full moon. We've had a very Aquarian year. We've had a stellium in Aquarius, and now we're having this double full moon in Aquarius. Now, one thing I want to point out about this particular lineup here is that Jupiter is also conjunct the moon. Jupiter just recently re-entered Aquarius. He is in retrograde, and he was in Aquarius at the start of 2021. He spent 4 to 5 months there, and then moved into the first few degrees of Pisces, and now he has returned back to Aquarius and is meeting up with the moon during this full moon. So something else to pay attention to at this time are any themes from the beginning of 2021 that may show back up. So it's almost like Jupiter's re-entering Aquarius to kind of clean house before fully entering into Pisces at the end of this year. So other than the full moon itself, as you can see here, we also have a couple of other alignments that I have highlighted here that I think are going to play a bigger role during this full moon. So the ruler of Aquarius is, Uranus. And Uranus has just stationed retrograde today as I'm filming this. And so just a couple of days before this full moon. And Uranus is trying to Mercury and Mars in Virgo. And so some of this energy can kind of be just some shocking communication or action taken to break free. Because Uranus is the planet closely associated with shakeups and breakdowns, sudden shocks, and that kind of thing that ultimately are geared towards more freedom for the individual or the collective, depending on how you want to look at this. So there could be something that comes up that's kind of been put on pause, or that hasn't been moving in your life. This could be a new business, this could be a relationship, this could be any number of things. But you may find that at the full moon and on, a couple of days on either side of this full moon, that you experience kind of a sudden breakthrough when it comes to your communication or actions that you're taking. And it kind of feels to me like something that's been weighing on you and you haven't known what to do, or you haven't wanted to do something about it. Kind of like one of those things that we tend to avoid because it's stressful. And I think as we enter into this full moon energy, it'll be kind of like the throwing up of the hands and saying, enough of this. I'm done with that. So could be some shocking revelations, sudden communication, or actions that shake you loose of that kind of prison that you may have felt like you've been in. The last one I want to point out is this grand air trine that is taking, you can see this triangle here, that is going on between Venus in Libra, Saturn in Aquarius, and the North Node in Gemini. And so what this to me signifies is more of an ease when it comes to releasing old relationships. And I'm pointing here because this is where the South Node sits. So this is the past, essentially. And it's about releasing and moving forward into destined relationships. Ones that are going to support you when it comes to your Aquarian endeavors. Something that is more supportive, something that is more conducive to your growth. And I'm speaking of relationships because Venus is sitting in Libra. So the sign of relationships and Venus, which is love and relationships. And so some of this will also likely be playing out in the realm of relationships. It could even be that a fated new partner enters your life around this full moon, or is able to enter your life as a result of this full moon, because as you can see here, I've drawn these dotted lines to the south node, and that's representative of a sextile. And so those sextiles are helping us to release relationships of the past. And I talked a bit about this in the new moon review. So I'll link that at the end of this video so you can kind of look back at how the south node was also playing into that new moon in Leo. And so quite a bit of energy going on here. You've probably already been feeling this for the last week, I would say, and you'll probably continue to feel it for about a week after the full moon, simply because when Uranus stations retrograde, it comes to a halt in the sky, and it's going to take it some time before it starts to move in the retrograde direction. And anytime a planet comes to a standstill, its energies are emphasized in our lives. So I hope that part of this was helpful. You can kind of take note and keep an eye out for some of those experiences in your own day-to-day life. I'm not going to go over all the alignments because, as you can see, there's a lot of lines going on here. I just wanted to focus in on those specific areas that are going to be the most obvious. So now I'm going to zoom you out, and we're going to have a look at the cards that I have already drawn for the new moon. Let me actually, here we go. Okay, so quite a big spread here, so I'm not going to be able to fit all the cards on the screen, but I tried to move them in a bit so that we get a decent view. So I went ahead and shuffled and laid these out before the reading because you can see I pulled 3 separate oracle sets here, and then I did the 9-card tarot spread in the center just to give us some more detail on what we might expect. And there's some interesting additional messages, I would say, that are coming in that I think play well with the alignments that I just discussed with you. So first we're going to start with the oracle cards. So our first one is the growth card, and it says waxing crescent. And you can see that it's like this lady is like this tree that's growing from almost like, it almost looks like the earth down here. So we have growth, and it's interesting because we also have the number 5, which signifies change. We also have gratitude, which I thought was really nice. also reduces to a 5. And then we have peace. And I'll kind of talk about these as far as how they play into the spread in just a moment. We have calming waters, which I also feel like kind of works together well with this peace card, because it says peaceful self-regulation. And so there's something about this full moon that is kind of coming in that allows us to kind of shed old baggage or things that were simply, causing stress in our lives. And because we're making that space, we have more room for peace. Now, one thing that I thought was really interesting, because this deck is new to me. This is the Priestess of Light Oracle. And so I've never drawn this card. And so I kind of looked in the book to see what other descriptions it had besides peaceful self-regulation. And what was kind of interesting was they talk about these antlers that she's wearing, kind of helping her to tap into her cosmic connection, her connection to source. And that because of that connection, she is able to use that connection as reassurance to her lower self and calm herself. But one of the things they used to describe these antlers was as antenna, which is really kind of funny because it's the same description that I used in my Instagram post just the other day when talking about some of the Uranus alignments that were happening. But I also like that there's a full moon here. And so that's kind of nice. I do feel like some of the changes or the knowledge that comes in for this full moon will be something that brings peace along with it. We also have the Bright Heart Light. So it's talking about open connections, and really the thing that I see the most is this green. She's coming out of this like green forest. So it's really talking about heart activations, heart healing, and green being the heart chakra and healing color. And then I thought this was kind of interesting. We got the Twin Flames, Soul Partner, and Eternal Connection card as well. And it could be, as I talked about in those alignments, with fated connections coming in, it could very well be that some of those are twin flame connections. Now on this side, I have the Teal Swan frequency cards, and we got Perceive in the reverse. So we've got the number 44, and it came in the reverse. And what that's talking about is perhaps there's been things that have been trying to get our attention, but we didn't want to see them, because oftentimes when we get the truth about something, there's other parts to it that we feel like we won't enjoy. So if we see the whole truth about something, we might see a truth that is not pleasant. And we'll talk more about that. We also got sexuality in the reverse. And I'll speak more on this, but I think it plays out nice with this row, because it's talking about using sexual energy in a negative way as an avoidance tactic. And for me, it's less about the actual act of sex and more about how our creative energy originates in that sacral chakra, just in the same I mean, it's the same energy as sexual energy. And so this kind of speaks to not using that creative energy in the most productive way. And we'll talk more about that. And then the last one we have is alignment. And this is number 4. And really this is just talking about us getting into alignment with the same frequency as the things we want to manifest, the people that we want to come into our lives. It can also talk about us being in a certain alignment and no longer being in alignment with old relationships or, jobs that we've had forever or what have you. And so just getting into alignment automatically means change. So, all right, so in the tarot, we have 3 of Wands, Strength, and the 10 of Pentacles, the Ace of Swords, 5 of Pentacles, and the Devil. And then we have the Sun, the Page of Pentacles, and Death. So, what do I want to talk about first? So, let's just start with this first row. So with the 3 of Wands, Strength, and the 10 of Pentacles, I think we've been kind of waiting for expansion. And we may have even felt like we've been in a holding pattern. Because the manifestations that we were attempting to bring in were so different, were so large. So there's definitely been like this expansion energy, this need for growth. So you can see it ties in here. But also, it's required a lot of strength. A lot of those changes that have been wanting to come in have been new and different. And simply because of that, it requires some kind of courage on our part. But ultimately, we have been wanting to bring that in. Because it's also the 10 of Pentacles. So when I think of the 10 of Pentacles, I'm thinking abundance, but not just in money, also in everything. And so, and something that's more tangible in the 3D. And so I know a lot of people that have been attempting to manifest something very new and different, and it has been a bit of a long process. But I think what's interesting specifically about this first row is that we have the calming waters and then we have perceive in the reverse. And something that's kind of interesting, it's almost like when we finally have the courage with this strength card to see what we haven't been wanting to see, it actually provides us with not only the knowledge that we're seeking, but also with the knowledge that maybe we weren't looking for. But either way, even if that's something that we've been fearing or something we've been trying to avoid on some level, it will still somehow provide freedom. And the ability to channel our own peace into ourselves. And so it's kind of like, knowledge is power and responsibility as well. But something about some of those revelations are also what, kind of sets you free and brings in that peace that, you can see she's, even in this peace card, she's kind of sitting in this orb of light, meditating. And so even though the knowledge has been uncovered, while we may have been fearing it, it's actually kind of like the key to our internal peace. So I think that's really nice. I think that's going to be something that many of us experience, like even though it can kind of be a double-edged sword, which speaking of, we have the Ace of Swords, it still gives you kind of that peace of mind. So I also wanted to kind of talk about this interesting connection here, because we have sexuality in the reverse and then bright heart light, open connection. So I think one of the things that's super obvious right now and is maybe coming into play more for this full moon is that we're being guided to create from a heart-centered space, a healed heart, and have really open, vulnerable connections with others. And a lot of us have been in this energy of sort of using our creative energy and even our sexuality to kind of act as more of a buffer to avoid some of those more vulnerable, open-hearted connections. I mean, we do that with a lot of things. It could be drugs, alcohol, too much time on the cell phone. But, you know, sexuality can also be another distraction from that vulnerability that we're maybe not quite ready to embrace. But it's kind of interesting here too, because we have the Ace of Swords, so that breakthrough kind of energy coming in from that Uranus influence. The Five of Pentacles and the Devil. It almost feels like another freedom from bondage here. Because a lot of times the Devil card will show the lovers chained together and to the devil. And so by having this kind of open breakthrough here, this open-hearted acceptance of the truth, and I like too that it almost looks like lightning kind of coming down on this Ace of Swords. Now the Ace of Swords is typically, well, it is an air representative card, which is also Aquarius. But I also like that it has the eagles here. So like this higher perspective coming in, right? Which is very Uranian and very Aquarian in nature. And so something about the real truth, even if it is a double-edged sword, will kind of break us out of this bondage and this, I want to say like, scarcity mindset with the Five of Pentacles. You can see that she's like standing outside of a church holding a bowl, like kind of, I mean, it's winter, there's snow coming down and on the ground. So, kind of like this scarcity situation. And it's interesting because just above it, we also have the card of gratitude with the symbolism of abundance standing in the background. And so as we become grateful for what we do have, and another 5 here, by the way, we break out of this scarcity mindset and this bondage. And the last row, this one's kind of interesting with this twin flame card coming in here. We have the Sun, the Page of Pentacles, and the Death card. And we have alignment. So it could very well be that the full moon in Aquarius is bringing several into alignment in order to come into contact with their twin flame. I think the thing that obviously stands out most on this card to me is this beacon of light that's coming down. And this tiger is representative of passion. And so a lot of times when we talk about twin flames, it's like this romantic interlude between two souls that have spent lifetimes together. It doesn't have to be that. So when I'm talking about passion, it could very well be, you know, some new person that starts working at your job. Turns out they're your twin flame, and you will both use that passion to provide something new to the collective, you know, as far as what you do and work together. So twin flames doesn't have to be a romantic relationship. Either way, the whole idea behind twin flames is to provide to the collective. And we talked quite a bit about that when I was talking about just the Aquarian themes in the alignment. So it makes sense to me. It's kind of an interesting row with the Sun, the Page of Pentacles, and Death. I do feel like some will be receiving some sort of communication or offer that will come in, and it could very well be from a twin flame connection. And if not a twin flame, just a deep soul connection, right? So, and I think that that is somehow going to play into this gratitude as well. Because there'll be something about it that kind of makes you more aware of your own abundance as you are right now, rather than like, you know, sometimes we can kind of look to abundance as like this future happening that's going to take place. And what this one's talking about is having gratitude for what we have right now. And it's also the last quarter moon card. And so really what happens at the last quarter moon is, you know, release, surrender, that kind of thing. So there could be a lot of, you know, endings that take place that kind of open up the door for this possibility here. What else do I want to point out? With the Death card here, this to me almost feels more like a rebirth, because I think the thing that stands out the most is that the Death, the guy here, the Knight of Death, is holding this sword. And so it's like whatever awareness comes in, piece of knowledge, communication, whatever it is that kind of Uranian tower moment is going to lead to some kind of death and rebirth. So keep that in mind. I think, you know, anytime we have new knowledge come in, we do tend to have a bit of an ego death as a result of that. So something to be aware of there. So I do feel like there's a lot of cards here that are signifying downloads, growth, expansion, and then it was interesting to see this bottom row come through with the twin flame theme here, and just being in alignment for that. I did find it also interesting that the Devil came up right next to this sexuality in reverse. And so I don't think that's an accident. Just kind of breaking free of whatever types of toxic, or it doesn't, I don't even feel like it has to be toxic, just unproductive creation type activities that we're partaking in that are serving as more of an avoidance tactic rather than facing the truth here. So I think what was more surprising to me was the theme of peace that came up. So I like that came through, because a lot of times when I think of Uranus and the Aquarian full moon and that kind of thing, it's definitely not peace. It's more like breakups and shakeups and what shocking event might come in. But I like the idea that that breakthrough energy can lead to freedom, right, from our binding prisons. But as a result, it brings in space for that peace to happen. And so I really liked that. So I hope that was helpful. You know, kind of just pay attention to what's coming up for you. I think you would find that the themes connect. I mean, that's why I study astrology, because it's kind of the roadmap of some of the energy that we do experience as a collective. And so I hope you have a really good full moon. I hope there are some wonderful new truths that come through for you that set you free, because that can be, even if it is a somewhat destructive experience, it's also liberating and apparently opens us up to some additional peace. So if you haven't already, go ahead and check your zodiac signs. Those were, I think, more in depth into the themes that might be coming up for your individual placements. And I will see you in the next one. Bye.